What's up, everyone? We are back at Blockchain for Social Justice. We are now saying now, Scott Morris.
Howdy.
Thanks for coming on the show, man.
My pleasure.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me, yeah.
And so you are a token economist with Qoin.
That's right.
Spelled Qoin.com.
Yep.
Check it out. And so you are building locally owned and locally run community economies.
Correct.
Okay, community currencies, impact tokens, participatory economies. What are these things?
Right.
We just talked to Ferris a bit.
Yeah. Good. Ferris is all.
Yeah.
We're talking the same language.
Okay, cool.
I mean, really, this is about putting local communities into the pilot seat of their own futures. I mean, we are subject to so many forces in this construct in the normal financial economy that's become very globalized. We have these very big entities, whether they're large international corporations or large federal governments that are making kind of sweeping decisions about things that have impact on our lives, and we have very few avenues to effectively respond to those things or to kind of have the financing to make changes in our communities that we know that need to have. There's just not the funding that's available. There's a whole host of problems here, but mostly what we're recognizing is that we have really huge problems, like with climate change and like all the things around sustainable development goals. Some estimates have the cost of succeeding in and achieving all of those goals to be around $50 trillion, right? And so no entity on the planet can accomplish those things on their own. It has to be a team effort. But we have real pressing things. We're racing a clock here. That's the primary enemy here is time to counteract climate change, right? And that's a big deal into itself. We've got social unrest that is not getting better. People feel very isolated. They feel very desperate, and because of economic forces and great disparities in wealth, they tend to blame one another. They can be kind of tricked through right-wing xenophobic rhetoric, for example, is what we're seeing happen here in the U.S. Formerly middle-class white people are suffering economically, and they want to blame somebody, and that's people who look different than them, and immigrants, and that's actually a pattern throughout history. So
Let's unpack one of the first things that you said, and then we'll continue.
Right.
One of the first things that you pointed out to was that kind of bringing the fabric of the community back to a point where we're engaging and interacting with each other, and we're not dependent on a single entity, whether it be like a government that's doing some sort of a top-down oversight or a corporation that's the only one that's able to provide us with the good or service that we need.
Right.
Yeah, so that seems to be a core principle of decentralization. So tell us a bit more about what this looks like where is Qoin being implemented today, and what does that look like for that city or that community?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I mean, really, it's there's a couple of layers that are all kind of working together. One is around civic engagement. Another is around capital, around how we are doing investing and doing development. And then the lowest level, I would say, is currency. So civic cryptocurrencies is one way that we've heard this phrased. These community-based currency systems. There's actually decades of history, centuries, millennia, depending on what you want to allow in the conversation. Track records and attempts and experimentation around using alternative monetary models to generate outcomes. Those can be commercially oriented, they can be socially oriented, they can be environmentally oriented, but what we're really kind of understanding is the way that these are used to incentivize impact. And so, the very radical notion underlying all of this is that people will do the things that they can get paid to do, right? And so if you want people to do things that right now aren't on the menu, the economic incentives aren't there for them to do that, well, then create the dang incentives. That's the thing we can do. The economy is a construct created by a lot of human decisions, and economic laws such as supply and demand exist within a construct of the money system. The money system, the way that money is designed, creates the very basic layer of incentives, right? For instance, interest. Do we reward people for hoarding, right? Positive interest is a reward for hoarding.
That's true.
Right? But the economy depends on spending and circulation.
Yeah.
those are incentives that butt heads, right? And we're actually seeing a lot of that happening again in crypto. There's people recreating mistakes all over the place. That's okay. It's really just, it comes down to understanding, kind of Zen and the art of incentive crafting, right? And that's what we're really discussing here. So in terms of the Qoin model, what we have is a program called Samadoun, which from Dutch translates to better together.
Samadoun?
Yes, it's Samendoen. So together we're doing kind of thing.
Together we're doing.
Yeah, so doing together, I like to call it better together. Yeah. It's like, because there's a qualitative value add in addition to the quantitative results. So what the Qoin model represents is one of the few fourth generation community currencies around the world. There's only a couple hundred tops. Like, it's probably still under 100 models that are even utilizing a number of strategies the way that this are. What a fourth generation implies is that it's a hybrid model that is bringing together a number of strategies and models and marketplaces into one mutually reinforcing system. All right, so we could talk about the past generations, but I think it's a little off point. What the four cornerstones of that program are: rewarding people for shopping with small businesses, right? Small Main Street level businesses, rewarding people for doing good in their communities and for changing their behaviors in ways that we know generate impacts, and sometimes that impact is for the bottom line of anchor institutions. There's a number of ways to create multiplier effects and other value adds along the value chain here.
So where is this implemented?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is in the cities of Tolen and Bergen op Zoom in the Netherlands.
Oh, so this is in the Netherlands, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
And so we're expanding.
And so how is this functioning? This is like a social impact token.
Correct. Yeah. But this is not yet on chain. We are.
This is off chain.
This is off chain. We are moving on chain. We're doing that with some technology partners whose token models we designed. And we're kind of bringing together an alliance of technology partners that we've worked with in one capacity or another around place-based impact-oriented systems.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the value of the social impact token is determined by what when it starts?
So, and this is a really essential element that is unfortunately overlooked by community currency programs, but also by blockchain, is that if this token exists to serve a community, the way that it will be serving that community needs to come from that community. It needs to be kind of a co-development process with them. There are certain decisions that you can make in terms of the construct, the nature of the offering, but how it's applied needs to be co-designed with them to make sure that that is what actually makes sense, and it's not just some notion that we have. So you bring together a multi-stakeholder body of some sort or another. We're not picky about how it's formatted in terms of an entity or whatever, but there needs to be engagement very early on to bring these stakeholders together to have the discussion and to really kind of check assumptions.
And then the values determined when I am starting to use the social impact token in my city. How is the value determined?
So there's different ways to go about it. We do not design systems that have floating prices against other currencies. We design stable tokens that they maintain a price parity with the dominant currency that exists there. And there's a couple of reasons for doing this. One is just for the simplicity.
So one social token would equal a euro?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
That's right. Well, or a 1/100th of a euro, 1 euro cent.
Oh, 1 euro cent.
Right.
Yeah.
So if it's a point type thing.
Yeah.
That's important. And then the other aspect is just that it's stable, right? You can provide some baseline stability with that, and then the types of system level stability you're able to provide with a stable coin is different than the types of outcomes than you'd be able to generate with floating price. I think that's a debatable point. People will probably debate that, but for the time being, we think that it's simpler to just kind of stay with some sort of price parity.
So what would be the difference between me using a couple euro cents versus a couple social impact tokens, coins? Like, what would be the difference? Like, why would I choose to use you? What's happening behind the scenes that's making me go, I want to use you all the time?
Right. Well, let me just reframe the question, because I think this is actually something that's evident in the cryptocurrency space at large. And because we're a bunch of techies and we think tech is important, we forget that the vast majority of the users that we're trying to help don't care about tech. They don't. They don't think it's interesting. They don't care what protocol you're based on. They don't care, really how the token's constructed. The end users want what the end users want. Our job is to help them get what they want. So I don't want to convince you to use my token. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to create a value add that appeals to you, might change your behavior slightly, right? Rather than going and buying on Amazon, you're buying on Main Street. All right. Now, why did you do that? Oh, you know that when I open up this app and I go on a shop on Main Street, I earn points. And those points, the points that I'm able to earn by shopping locally, exceed the types of points that I would earn online. And then I save up my points, just like my frequent flyer miles or my coffee card points, and then I get to redeem them. I get to go and have an enjoyable experience on the basis of that generation of impact.
So my incentive to use the social impact coin locally is that I gain some sort of rewards that are greater than the rewards that I would gain from a conglomerate working with through them. That's one
kind of approach to it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then there seems to be there's still something else. If I do locally as well and I use social impact coin, is there something else like that? Is that the community?
Certainly.
Yeah. What are these other things as well?
Sure. So one of the things is that we're opening up new ways to earn. Right. One of the major problems in the economic system and the money system that I don't think is really kind of fully appreciated is that the 99% of the user base of that product / service basically just doesn't have enough access to it, right? Vast majority of us are pretty broke, right? We know that more and more wealth is being concentrated up to the very, very tippity top, right? It's like at the end of a game of Monopoly when one player has all the money and everybody else is having a totally crap time at the game, but it's not over yet. Right? That's the general emotional signature of our experience in the economy right now.
Truth.
And so that's what's going on. So what we're able to do is we can create new circuits of recognition of value creation. Mm-hmm. So there's more options in terms of ways that I can earn purchasing power. And what we focus on doing here, why it's an impact token, is that we align the ability to earn the power to purchase with your service to purpose. Right, that's the big kind of misalignment right now. Is that we know that we need to go over here to achieve the sustainable development goals, but I have to go that way to earn money, right? Service to purpose, power to purchase, totally out of alignment. So we're bringing those back into alignment.
That's a really good way to put it. Okay. Yeah. All right. So the first step of the process is to understand that we're in a monopoly game, and that in the monopoly game, it's now having a vast concentration of wealth, and that the rest of us are going, okay, SDGs are this way, but the human race is that way.
Right. And the money system is that way. The money
system, that's why it's the human race. This is like human flourishing is this way. Human race doesn't always catalyze some sort of flourishing to maximize human potential. Yeah. But let's say we do align ourselves with this purpose that we have of maximizing potential of human flourishing and of social impact through these coins, through these impact coins. Right. So in order to get there, we have to go from relying on these centralized entities to provide us with the services. It's got to be a shift in mindset, shift in perspective to want to align ourselves with these impact coins.
Yeah, and basically that is as simple as, do you care about this goal? Like, it really can be boiled down to that thing. And basically just based on the values alignment, you can actually create a monetary value flow. That's possible.
Will I end up needing to pay more in the short term, another maybe $1 or $2 on these smaller items like toilet paper and bread and stuff like that, because it's just a little bit more expensive to buy locally at times than it is from a major conglomerate that can also deliver it to me in 30 minutes.
Right. That's actually a very fair question. So there's a key equation that we focus on, and it is Irving Fisher's equation of a microeconomy, and that is P of price, being the average price of all the goods and services sold, times T number of transactions. That is like how much value you have in the economy. So PT equals MV, the money supply times the velocity. Now we cannot really have an impact on P. That's the one out of the four that we cannot really have an effect on.
On the price?
Correct. So I'm not going to be affecting prices, and I'm not trying to have an effect on prices.
Yeah.
What we do have an effect on is the number of transactions by way of increasing the supply of money and increasing the velocity. So we focus on the right half of the equation. We can impact the number of the total supply of liquidity of money in that microeconomy, and that money that we introduce has a habit of going faster, circulating more, which is a weird way to think about it, but basically is higher performance money over the same period of time. It facilitates more economic activity. So that's one thing.
Just teaching us about how $10 million stimulated within the local economy produces 48 jobs, and 10 million from us purchasing through Amazon would only stimulate 4 jobs. So this idea of creating a microeconomy inside of a city, and then having the velocity of money be just much faster going between each other, efficiencies increasing, innovation increasing, quality of life increasing, community increasing. That seems like the route in rather than having the monopoly game fall apart.
Right.
And vast majority of people just lose, and there be a speciation, a socioeconomic status. Seems like decentralization is basically coming in right on time to save the day if we can figure out how to proliferate it.
That's right. And really what it's saying is like, okay, we recognize that the game of Monopoly is in the end game state, and we can play another game even as that continues to play out, but we start playing another game here, and another game here, and another game here, and another game here. And that reduces the amount of dependency and relevance of that first game, and we can start to find these alternative channels.
Yes.
Really, I mean, listen, the economy is very simple, okay? It's all about doing one thing, going from what I've got to getting what I want, right? And now what we've experienced is a bottleneck effect. And the bottleneck is how much money is available, right? We have all these goods and services that we have all the goods and services that we want. There's plenty of buyers who would buy those things if they could afford it, but we all have to go through this bottleneck of the available money supply in order to be able to get out to the other side. And what we're doing is we're widening the bottleneck.
Yeah.
That's the effect of what we're seeing.
Yeah. Okay, so what is when will people in the US be able to use Qoin?
Hopefully, I mean, within the next 6 months to a year. So we already have the existing technology. You know, we're expanding in the Netherlands.
Good.
We have a really promising situation in Lisbon and Portugal right now.
Hell yeah.
And that's what, like, with the city of Lisbon involved.
That's
a really, really progressive thing. Like, the EU's looking at it, everything.
Great.
So it's my mission. So I actually created this sister organization for Qoin called AmeriCoin.
Yeah.
And basically, what we're doing is taking Qoin global. AmeriCoin is responsible for US and Canada, and I am working with a number of networks across both countries that would use the next generation platform that we can pull together.
Sweet.
Yeah. So I mean, really, as soon as possible, we're hoping to move to token sale within the next year.
And then move to token sale within the next year. So right now, the coin is not on the chain. The coin's just being pushed to a couple hundred people in these cities.
Oh, I mean, a few thousand households.
1,000 households in these cities, and they're using the coin they're exchanging the coins.
Right. There's the loyalty programs, there's civic rewards programs, there's the sharing economy, P2P activity, and automatic donations.
Someone will actually sell their bread for 100 of these coins.
Yep.
And then
they just call them points.
Points. So 100 of these points for bread. And then, so this is already happening.
Yep.
And then what about what happens once there is a public sale of the coins?
What the token sale will do, I mean, so our token economy is more sophisticated than your average token economy. We are token economists. We design these things for as a service. We are really deep into this space, so it's not like we're going overboard here. It's just a recognition of the different layers of what we're talking about. So we have the currency layer, the capital layer, the civic engagement layer, and then there's a global token that facilitates the conversions between the tokens and various local networks. So that's one aspect of where Bancor becomes really useful. So I think it's appropriate to mention I'm an advisor to the Bancor Foundation. I have BNT, but I'm also one of the big true believers in the Bancor protocol, the smart token format, and the value adds that brings to token economies. So we've really been focused on how to utilize these new tools, these new classes of digital assets to unlock new types of wealth and to create additional system level benefits as a part of this architecture. And there's a lot of potential there. Yeah.
There's a lot more that I need to learn to continue unpacking this, but this is interesting. I want to know what will happen once the ICO happens, how that will affect the coins that are currently being circulated, and what it'll do to
basically
people that buy coins.
Right. Sorry, I didn't quite answer your question there, but basically these are for the global tokens, which right now are kind of like a license token. So it's not really about them being able to like buy the points in a locale. But there is some connection between the two. But basically, because it's a stable token on the ground, like kind of relatively fixed price, it's not like going to dilute the value or anything like that. It just will open things up to each individual location rather than just being totally insulated. Is part of a networked whole. So it allows for the interoperability and interexchange.
All right, let's run you through a couple of questions as we go out. We're at the social justice for blockchain event. So we talked a lot about how blockchain's affecting what you're building right now and how you're leveraging blockchain technology to build it. It's not yet on chain, but it will soon be on chain, and that'll help with transparency and immutability and decentralization. You're already decentralizing quite well. How about for social justice? Where does this come into play for social justice?
Right, it's an awesome question and totally fitting for the event. One thing that I focus on, at least, is that really what we're talking about is, new models of exchange, new ways of helping supply meet demand and demand to meet supply. Where that happens is in a place we call a market or a marketplace. And marketplaces, in kind of an abstracted way, can generally be classified into one of four categories. I actually met the team that is now Bancor before they were Bancor when they were doing a marketplace application. They brought to me in my capacity as the founder of the local currency in Ithaca called Ithacash, which succeeded the local currency there from the 90s called the Ithaca Hours. And so I started using this marketplace app, and it was very sophisticated. You create any kind of two-sided marketplace, and you could have a bunch of them, and then you network them together. It was awesome. But I needed to figure out how to wield that. And so what I found were like, okay, what are the different types of marketplaces? Like, how are people using these things? And I kind of like really took a deep dive on it. And things like Airbnb and Uber are what I call utility marketplaces, where they just aggregate the supply of a given good or service to make that easier for the demand side to find, and it also creates some price stability, price regularity. There are three other classes. One is locality, where we all just live in the same place. There's another that is affinity, like, hey, we're members of the same group, like chambers of commerce or whatever. And the next is solidarity. And I think that is really where we hit on the answer to your question here. because it's known that Black Americans are at the bottom, right? Bottom of the economic pyramid. And in fact, it's been calculated that the number of years it would take for the average Black American family to build the same level of wealth enjoyed by the average white American family today, it would take like 300 years, right? At the rate that we're going, because we're actually diverging, So what we need are these dedicated channels that are devoted to channeling cash and capital into these sectors that are starving for access to capital. Well, you can have a marketplace that is like the Buy Black marketplace. You can have a marketplace that's only for women-owned businesses. You can have a marketplace that's only for Native American-owned businesses. So that's what I call a solidarity marketplace.
Got it. So then solidarity marketplaces is that I want to go and support Native American business, so I'm going to go on a site that only has Native American businesses, and they're validated, and then same thing for Black, same thing for women, same thing for whoever.
That's right.
Okay, interesting. So that's a way to kind of funnel money through those communities faster and bring them up.
And each one of those things can have their own token model. Each one of those things can have its own devoted economic circuitry of value exchange that incentivizes that wealth to stay in that community.
Interesting. Part of that is really important because you want to have really valid, invaluable social justice in those areas of the world for those people of the world. But also at the same time, it seems a little bit tribal. It seems like we're continuing to push into a tribal setting where there must be some sort of a way to not be so tribal about it, but be uplifting about it collectively at the same time.
No, I agree that there's something that's very delicate about the social dynamics of doing these things the right way. And specifically around representation and inclusion. So that being said, I think that it's not about being exclusive. I mean, because listen, it's really only a matter of time until the white power groups do it the same way. They're like, oh, it's reverse racism. We got to have a white-only marketplace, like big eye roll. Okay, but it's probably going to happen. Okay, it's a blockchain. It's immutable. There are racists, it's just a matter of time. But, for people who aren't busy getting triggered by the idea of recognizing that, yes, it is just a matter of skin color and melatonin levels, right?
Whatever the hell you want.
If we can have a positive impact by doing this, great, let's do that.
If you want to buy only Native American, go for it. If you want to buy only Black, go for it.
That's right.
Do your thing. There's a marketplace for it.
That's right.
Do your thing.
Just making the option available and very clear.
But also having a ethics and philosophy that is also driven towards progression of the whole planet and of not just your tribe only.
Right.
It seems to be really important moving forward. Now, okay, let's ask you a couple of these ending questions that we like asking.
Sure.
Do you think we're alone in the cosmos?
I think that it is mathematically unlikely. It's a big cosmos out there.
Totally.
And the physics of having a specific amount of galactic dust that comes together to form the disk that spins together to create a star of a certain size, and the harmonics away from that center of gravity, creating a habitable. Thank you. Oh my God, habitable zone for a planet that can happen. There's a boatload of frickin' stars out there. It's happened some other place. Whether that's now. In terms of the time thing, that's an interesting question, but I don't think so.
Do you think we're in a simulation?
I personally cannot prove we are not. I hear some people experimented about that. I don't know whether that's they just did a bunch of DMT or what, but I cannot state factually that I know that I'm not living in a simulation.
And then what do you think is the most beautiful thing in the world, Scott?
people breaking free from oppressive systems. That's it. Watching people recognize and become proficient in the language of their own power. I think that's the most beautiful thing in the world.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
That really resonated. I like that one.
Great.
Unshackle yourself from the oppression.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and from the tyranny, and really have that help with self-actualization and collective actualization. Yeah, I love it.
That's it.
This has been fantastic. Learned a lot.
Thanks for having me on.
I think that there's something about the way that we design future communities and economies and impact coins. And I think there's something really powerful there that you're working on, that a lot of people here that we've talked to are talking about. So it's exciting stuff, and it's a pleasure to have learned about it from you.
Thanks a lot, Alan.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Much appreciated. Thanks everyone for tuning in. If you guys had a good time, make sure to comment below with your thoughts, subscribe, share the content with other people. Remember, do not just consume this content, go create with it, make a video with it, write about it, tell two people about it for sure. Tell two people, they'll tell two people, etc. Keep going. And join us on Patreon. We need to continue sustaining this project and continue to grow it to come to cool places like this and continue highlighting smart people. So join us on Patreon. Thank you so much, everyone.
Not smart people.
Much love. Talk to you soon. Peace.